The quantum bridge. Dr. Natalia Reeves adjusted the calibration matrix on her quantum resonance chamber, fingers dancing across the holographic display with practiced precision. 3 years of research had led to this moment, the first active test of her revolutionary quantum entanglement communication system. If successful, it would change how humanity shared information across vast distances, enabling instantaneous communication regardless of physical separation. 20 seconds to full activation, she announced, brushing a strand of auburn hair from her face. The observation room behind the reinforced glass remained silent except for the soft hum of monitoring equipment. Captain Darius Shaw stood at parade rest, his broad shoulders tense beneath his navy blue uniform. He'd been assigned to this classified facility just 2 weeks ago, another babysitting job watching scientists play with technology he barely understood. His steel-gray eyes scanned the laboratory for potential security violations, a habit from 15 years in military intelligence. Quantum field stabilizing at 70%, Natalia continued, her voice measured despite her excitement. Particle entanglement matrix engaged. Darius shifted his weight, uncomfortable with the prickling sensation at the base of his skull. Something about this experiment felt different from the dozen others he'd overseen during his career. The glowing blue chamber pulsed with increasing frequency, casting eerie shadows across the laboratory. Field integrity at 90%, Natalia called out, her fingers making final adjustments. Preparing for full-spectrum resonance. The air in the laboratory seemed to thicken as the quantum chamber reached peak intensity. Natalia felt lightheaded, attributing it to the adrenaline of scientific breakthrough. Darius rubbed the back of his neck, the prickling sensation growing stronger. Initiating quantum bridge in 3, 2, 1. The laboratory erupted in a brilliant flash of azure light. Natalia stumbled backward as feedback surged through the system. Darius instinctively rushed forward, breaking protocol to reach for the scientist as she fell. Their hands connected at the precise moment the quantum field expanded beyond containment. The world disappeared in blinding light. Confusion. Pain. A cascade of neural connections forming where none should exist. Natalia regained consciousness first, blinking against the emergency lighting. Fire suppression systems had activated, filling the air with fine mist. She pushed herself to a sitting position, head throbbing. "Captain Shaw," she called, spotting his unconscious form nearby. "Captain." As she crawled toward him, a strange sensation washed over her, emotions that weren't her own, confusion, disorientation, and a sharp pain behind the eyes. Darius groaned, eyelids fluttering. "What happened?" he muttered, then froze, staring at her with sudden intensity. "Why can I hear your thoughts?" Natalia's eyes widened. "That's impossible." "You can't." But he could. Somehow, she knew he could hear her, just as she could sense his growing alarm. "The quantum resonance," she whispered, mind racing through calculations and theoretical possibilities. "When the field expanded, and we touched." Darius sat up abruptly, wincing at the movement. "You're telling me your experiment did this? Created some kind of telepathic connection?" "Not telepathy," she corrected automatically. "Quantum entanglement of neural patterns. Theoretically possible but never documented in organic matter." She paused, realizing she was rambling. "But yes, that appears to be what happened." The captain's face hardened as he pushed himself to his feet. "Turn it off." "It's not that simple," Natalia replied, gesturing to the damaged equipment. "The system overloaded. And even if it hadn't, we don't know if reversing the process would sever the connection or—" She didn't finish the sentence, but Darius caught the unspoken thought anyway. "Or cause permanent neural damage." "This is completely unacceptable," he growled, pacing the laboratory like a caged animal. Natalia felt his emotions churning, anger masking fear, violation, and beneath it all, a soldier's training asserting control over the situation. "I understand this is disturbing, Captain," she said carefully. "But we need to approach this scientifically." "Scientifically?" Darius turned on her, his voice sharp. You've invaded my mind, Doctor. My thoughts aren't classified material for you to access. Natalia bristled. This wasn't intentional. And in case you haven't noticed, it works both ways. I can feel your judgment and disapproval radiating like a beacon. Their eyes locked, a silent battle of wills interrupted by the laboratory door sliding open. Dr. Javier Rodriguez, Natalia's research partner, rushed in with 2 security officers. Natalia. Thank goodness you're all right. Javier exclaimed, helping her to her feet. The quantum surge triggered every alarm in the building. Director Hammond is demanding answers. Darius straightened his uniform, military discipline taking over. We need to keep this quiet until we understand it, his thought projected clearly to Natalia. She gave a slight nod. Tell the director it was a power fluctuation in the resonance matrix, she told Javier. Nothing we can't fix. The test was inconclusive. After Javier and the security team departed with promises to return with medical personnel, Natalia turned back to Darius. We need to understand the parameters of this connection, she said, scientist mode engaging despite her personal discomfort. How much can you perceive? Just surface thoughts, or deeper? Darius closed his eyes, focusing. It's not just thoughts. I can feel your curiosity, your excitement despite the circumstances. His eyes opened, piercing her with their intensity. You're not nearly as disturbed by this as you should be. Natalia flushed, caught. From a scientific perspective, it's fascinating. The implications for neuroscience alone are not our priority, he interrupted. Our priority is severing this connection and maintaining security around what happened. She felt his military mindset imposing order on chaos, compartmentalizing the experience. It was strangely reassuring. Agreed, she said. But to fix it, I need to understand it. We should run some tests before the medical team arrives. The next few hours passed in a blur of covert experiments between medical evaluations. They discovered their connection strengthened with proximity and emotional intensity. They could shield surface thoughts with effort, but emotional states remained transparent between them. Most disturbingly, the connection showed no signs of fading. Late that evening, they sat in Natalia's office reviewing their findings, careful to maintain a professional distance even as their minds brushed against each other. The quantum entanglement appears stable, Natalia concluded, studying her tablet. Neural activity in corresponding brain regions shows mirrored patterns when the connection is active. Darius rubbed his temples. In plain English, Doctor. Our brains are linked at the quantum level, she simplified. And the connection is getting stronger, not weaker. Silence fell between them, heavy with implications. How do we function like this? Darius finally asked, genuine uncertainty cracking his disciplined facade. I can't do my job if you're in my head constantly. Natalia felt his vulnerability and resisted the urge to offer physical comfort. We'll adapt. Humans are remarkably resilient, Captain. A flickering thought from Darius caught her attention, an image of the laboratory security logs. What about the logs? She asked, watching his expression shift to surprise, then concern. You saw that? I was just thinking we should review them, he said, standing abruptly. Something doesn't feel right about the system overload. They made their way to the security office, their connection humming with shared purpose. The night security officer nodded respectfully at Darius before granting them access to the system. As Natalia reviewed the power allocation logs, Darius examined the personnel entries. His sudden spike of alarm flooded their connection before he could shield it. What is it? She asked, turning to him. Darius pointed to the screen. Laboratory access at 0340 hours this morning. 6 hours before our test. Natalia frowned. That's impossible. The lab was sealed for pre-test protocols. Not according to this, he replied grimly. Someone used Director Hammond's credentials to access the quantum chamber calibration systems. Sabotage, Natalia whispered, the implications crashing down on her. The resonance field didn't malfunction, it was tampered with. Their eyes met, mutual understanding flowing through their connection. Who? She asked. I don't know, Darius replied, his military training already mapping out investigation protocols. But our accident just became a security breach. And we may be the only ones who can track down who did this and why. Natalia nodded, unexpected resolve strengthening between them, the first harmonious emotion they'd shared through their strange new bond. They never expected us to survive the sabotage, she said quietly. And they certainly never expected this, Darius added, gesturing between them. Whatever this connection is. It might be exactly what we need to catch them, Natalia finished. As they stood in the dimly lit security office, their accidental quantum bridge hummed with shared purpose, transforming from intrusion to asset in the space of a realization. The hunt would begin tomorrow. Minds entwined. Morning light filtered through the blinds of Natalia's office as she reviewed the security logs for the 5th time. Sleep had been nearly impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Darius's consciousness brushing against hers, his military-trained mind analyzing their situation from all angles even in rest. You look terrible, Darius commented, entering with 2 cups of coffee. His own eyes were shadowed, evidence of his equally restless night. Thanks, Natalia replied dryly, accepting the coffee. Their fingers brushed, and the connection between them flared with sudden intensity. Images flashed between them, Darius's early morning security sweep, his conversation with the night guard, his growing suspicion about the facility's network architecture. They both pulled back, still unaccustomed to these moments of complete transparency. Sorry, Darius muttered, stepping away to maintain distance. Don't be, Natalia said. It's actually helpful. I know exactly what you found without a lengthy briefing. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Efficient, if uncomfortably intimate. She nodded, sipping her coffee. Speaking of findings, Director Hammond's credentials were used, but the biometric signature doesn't match his patterns. Someone spoofed his identity. That narrows our suspect list, Darius replied, leaning against her desk. Only 3 people have the technical expertise to bypass those security measures. Natalia closed her eyes, following his thought process. Javier, myself, and Lena Westfield, Darius finished. The network security specialist. Natalia frowned. Lena's been with the project since the beginning. Why would she sabotage us now? Instead of answering aloud, Darius projected a memory, Lena arguing with someone on a secure channel, quickly disconnecting when she noticed Darius approaching. At the time, he'd thought nothing of it. Now, it seemed significant. We need proof, Natalia said, already rising from her chair. Carefully, Darius cautioned. If she's working for someone else, tipping her off could be dangerous. Their morning proceeded with forced normalcy. Natalia supervised repairs to the quantum chamber while Darius conducted his regular security rounds. To anyone observing, they appeared to be functioning independently. In reality, their awareness remained tangled together, sharing observations and insights across the facility without speaking. By afternoon, they had developed a rudimentary technique for managing their connection, imagining a door between their minds that could be opened or closed as needed. It wasn't perfect, strong emotions still leaked through, but it provided some semblance of privacy. Dr. Reeves? Javier's voice pulled Natalia from her work. The director wants to see you about the incident report. Of course, she replied, maintaining her composure even as she felt Darius's immediate concern through their link. Be careful what you say, his thought reached her clearly. Hammond might be compromised too. Director Hammond was a weathered man with shrewd eyes and a reputation for ruthless efficiency. He gestured for Natalia to sit as she entered his office. Explain to me, he began without preamble, how a project with unlimited funding and the best minds in quantum physics managed to almost blow up the entire facility. Natalia presented their cover story, a calibration error in the quantum matrix, easily fixed, no permanent damage to the core technology. All technically true, if incomplete. And Captain Shaw? Hammond asked, studying her with unusual intensity. He was in the chamber when it happened. Natalia's heart rate spiked. How much did Hammond know? She felt Darius's awareness sharpen in response to her alarm. He pulled me out when the system overloaded, she replied carefully. Standard security protocol. Hammond's gaze didn't waver. And there were no unusual effects from the quantum field exposure. Before she could answer, Darius's voice came through their connection with urgent clarity. He knows something. Look at his left desk drawer, it's partially open. Natalia shifted slightly, glimpsing a file folder labeled, Quantum Neural Integration, Phase 2. Her blood ran cold as understanding dawned. This wasn't sabotage, it was an unauthorized experiment. With them as the subjects. No unusual effects, Director, she lied smoothly. Captain Shaw and I were fortunate. Hammond's disappointment was barely perceptible, but Natalia caught it. Very well. I expect the chamber to be operational again within 48 hours. As she left the office, Darius met her in the corridor, his expression neutral but his mind raging with the same realization that had hit her. My office isn't secure, he projected. Meet me in sub-level storage in 20 minutes. The storage level was cold and dimly lit, used primarily for equipment that was rarely accessed. Darius was waiting beside a defunct server bank when she arrived. Hammond knew, Natalia said the moment they were alone. He expected the accident to create this connection between us. Not just knew, planned it, Darius corrected, pulling out his tablet. Look what I found in the classified project archives. The quantum resonance communication system was never the primary objective. It was the cover for this. The tablet displayed a heavily redacted document titled, Quantum Consciousness Integration Initiative. Beneath layers of security classifications was a project summary, creating a neural bridge between operatives for covert operations. They've been working toward weaponizing quantum entanglement at the neural level, Darius continued. We're not the victims of sabotage, we're the first successful test subjects. Natalia felt sick. All my research, perverted for military application. I'm military, Darius reminded her, but even I recognize the ethical violations here. Human experimentation without consent crosses every line. Their connection hummed with shared indignation, then determination. We need to expose this, Natalia said. But first, we need to secure our research. If we go public, they'll destroy everything. Darius nodded. We need to get to the quantum core and extract your original algorithm before they can delete it. They made their way to the main laboratory, maintaining casual conversation whenever they passed other personnel. Through their connection, they coordinated their plan. Natalia would download the core algorithm while Darius kept watch. The laboratory was empty when they arrived, most of the staff having left for the day. Natalia immediately began working at her terminal while Darius positioned himself near the door. Someone's coming, he warned after a few minutes, his enhanced military senses detecting footsteps before Natalia could hear them. She continued working, fingers flying across the interface as she compressed years of research into a secure data package. Almost there. The laboratory door slid open to reveal Lena Westfield, her expression hardening when she saw them. Working late, Dr. Reeves? She asked, her tone neutral even as her hand slipped into her pocket. Just fixing the calibration issues, Natalia replied, feeling Darius's alert awareness focus on the network specialist. Interesting, Lena said, slowly circling the room. Especially since I locked those systems down an hour ago. Darius moved subtly, positioning himself between Natalia and Lena. Under whose authority? Director Hammond's, of course, Lena replied with a tight smile. He's very interested in preserving the integrity of this project. Through their connection, Natalia felt Darius's tactical assessment. Lena was armed, likely with a small-caliber weapon, and was blocking their primary exit. "Keep her talking," Natalia projected. "Transfer at 89%. You know what happened during the test, don't you?" Darius asked, keeping Lena's attention on him. "It wasn't an accident." Lena's smile faltered. "Accidents in science often lead to the greatest breakthroughs, Captain. Though I'm curious, how much of each other can you actually perceive?" The casual confirmation of their suspicions sent a shock wave through their connection. Natalia's fingers never paused in their work. "Enough to know you and Hammond deliberately engineered the quantum field collapse," Darius replied, his tone conversational even as his mind calculated angles of attack if needed. Lena nodded appreciatively. "Very good. Phase 1 was always about creating the neural bridge. The communication system was just the delivery mechanism." "And Phase 2? Natalia asked, finally turning from her terminal as the data transfer completed. "Weaponization," Lena stated simply. "Imagine field agents linked across continents, sharing intelligence in real time without any detectable communication. Or more intriguingly, soldiers linked to their commanders, receiving orders directly into their consciousness." "Mind control," Darius said flatly. "Direction," Lena corrected. "And you two are the proof of concept. The first successful quantum bridge between human minds." She withdrew her hand from her pocket, revealing not a weapon but a small device with a blinking light. "This is a neural disruptor. It won't harm you permanently, but it will disable your connection long enough for us to secure you for further study. Now." Natalia's thought flashed to Darius, who was already moving. What happened next was a blur of coordinated action made possible only by their unique connection. As Darius lunged forward, Natalia triggered the emergency containment protocol from her terminal. The laboratory doors sealed instantly as warning lights flashed. Lena raised the neural disruptor, but Darius knocked it from her hand with precision born of military training reinforced by Natalia's calculated trajectory analysis flowing through their link. "You can't stop this," Lena hissed as Darius restrained her. "The program has government backing at the highest levels." "Perhaps," Natalia replied, securing the data drive containing her research. "But they'll have a hard time continuing without the original algorithm. And without their success story," Darius added. "I've already transmitted evidence of the unauthorized experiment to my military superiors outside the project's chain of command." It took 3 hours for the situation to resolve. External security forces arrived, Hammond was detained, and Natalia and Darius were debriefed separately by stern-faced officials from an oversight committee. Through it all, their connection remained, a constant reassurance that neither was alone in the storm of questions and accusations. They finally reunited on the facility's observation deck, watching as sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and reds. For the first time since the accident, they allowed their connection to flow freely between them, without resistance or fear. "What happens now?" Natalia asked, both aloud and through their link. Darius leaned against the railing beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "The project will be dismantled. Your research will be classified, but preserved in its original form." "And us?" she asked quietly. "This connection. They can't force us to undergo experimental procedures to sever it." "No," he agreed. "The oversight committee was clear about that. Whatever happens next is our choice." Natalia turned to face him, studying the features that had become as familiar to her as her own in just 2 days. "I'm not sure I want to give it up." Surprise flashed through their connection, quickly followed by agreement. "It's intrusive," Darius acknowledged, "inconvenient, sometimes overwhelming, but also remarkable," she finished. "We've experienced something no one else ever has, a true meeting of minds." He smiled, the expression transforming his usually stern features. "Not exactly how either of us planned to form a connection with someone. The best discoveries are often accidents," Natalia replied, her scientific mind still marveling at the quantum improbability of their situation. As the last light faded from the sky, they stood together in comfortable silence, their consciousness gently intertwined, no longer fighting the connection but embracing it. What had begun as an unwanted intrusion had transformed into something neither would willingly surrender. Their quantum bridge, once an accident, had become a gift, one they would learn to navigate together, wherever it might lead them.